So, welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Wes, and today's guest is Jennifer Bonner. She has a varied background, including a lot of different things: sales, IT analysis, entrepreneurship, real estate investing, and more. She was able to do all of that while raising kids and getting them involved in various aspects of the business from a young age. Um, so, Jennifer, thank you so much for being on with me today. I'm super grateful and I'm excited to learn from you. You've obviously got a lot of success and experience, both in business, real estate, and parenting, and kind of combining the two. So, tell me, what's your 2 minute life story about getting into business, and then also a little bit about your kids? How many and what ages?
All right. Well, I'll start from when we had kids. I mean, before kids, we had I had always been in sales, and my husband and I both had corporate jobs. But when our kids were 1 and 3, we decided to leave our corporate jobs, and we started our own businesses and investing and managing properties. And so our kids have never known anything else. And it was a really a nice thing. The first 2 years of my son's life, he had to go to daycare while I went to work. But once we made the change, he could come to work with us. I mean, when we're redoing an apartment, he'd play in the corner, and do stuff. And so it was a really nice time to do that. We were able to do things over the years when they're growing up, being able to take them to school. They went to a private Christian school, and we were able to take them and drop them off. My husband was able to do it quite a bit, so it really freed us up to be more involved in their lives. And in doing that, they were involved in ours too. So they got to kind of see how the sausage is made from a young age. So they're now, my son Daniel is 21, and my daughter Rachel is 19. And Rachel is in her junior year at University of Idaho. And a neat thing just with her being in school is she hasn't had to have a job at college, because she does art and she sells on Etsy. And so she makes enough on there to, we cover her tuition and her rent, but she makes enough to cover doing stuff, buying extras, and, paying her gas and stuff. And so that's been really nice. I don't know if she'll ever actually have a job. She just can't see herself working for someone else. So she's never seen us do it. So my son, he's 21, and he has had jobs. He's had a few over the years, partly working in our business. When he was around 12 or 13, he'd start doing handyman work with my husband. Okay. At 14, he was installing, electrical outlets, replacing them in the whole thing. And, with the power off, of course. Yeah. But, he went to college for about a week. It was we dropped them both off. He graduated during COVID, and okay. So he didn't go to college that year. And then my daughter's a year behind him, so they both went at the same time. But within 2 days, he was calling me like every day. I think I talked to him more in that week than I did in a year before that. But so he made it 1 week in college, and he dropped out. Fortunately, he did it right on, at the day that he didn't have to pay for any of the, he did it in time. But we're like, well, you got to do something. So he went to the Motorcycle Mechanic Institute in Phoenix for a 10-month program. And now he's a motorcycle mechanic, and he's a very good one. And he loves that. So, but his entrepreneur in him, he buys a motorcycle, he rides it, he sells it, he trades up. He'll have 5 or 6 motorcycles at one time, and then
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's insane to me, but I'm also proud of him, because he's always, selling them for more than he bought them for. and he's always trading and making trading up and stuff. And so he's kind of learned that from watching us. Um, so he loves his job, but he also on the side is kind of doing some of these, the horse trading and making money.
Right.
So, it's pretty neat. Our kids have never had allowances. They've always made their own money or got their own money somehow. One of our businesses that I started, when we first left our corporate jobs and came over to Idaho, I was working at AT&T and I was still working remotely. And I didn't really, I'm more of a face-to-face person, and
Right.
I did that for a while, but then there was an opportunity to take the layoff. And so I took the layoff and ended up starting a store. Just kind of, I not a retail person or anything. It just seemed like a good idea to try this store in one of our properties that, just kind of for fun. So I did a secondhand store, and it did all right, but it went for about a year, and I made enough money to either replace merchandise or pay an employee. And so I decided to close it down, but I had all this stuff. I had about 2,000 square feet worth of merchandise, and there was a store in town that they were a vendor mall, and they had a lot of booths. So they had people with like 8 by 10 and size booths that were selling. So it's like an indoor kind of, I don't want to call it a flea market because it's a little nicer than that, but I went to see if I could sell my stuff off in there. And she said, well, she was having health issues and, why don't I buy her store? And I was like, well, I don't know. I never really wanted to do it. But that's a long story. Well, not too long, but anyway, I ended up doing that and went from a 2,000 square foot store to an 8,000 square foot store.
Oh, wow.
With vendors. And so my kids, when we took that over, they were there a lot. And it's funny, my son, those carpeted furniture movers, he would lay on them and scoot around the store and stuff. But they, as they were in elementary school and outgrowing certain toys, and my daughter loved dresses, and she'd always get after Easter and stuff. I'm a thrift store shopper, so I get her all these dresses after Christmas and Easter. So she outgrew things, and they outgrew their toys. They sold them in the store. Okay. And so they made money doing that, and they go garage selling with me in the summer, and they would sell stuff. So they learned how to, buy low, sell high, recycle things. And so they had hundreds in the bank from the time they were, in elementary school. And that's a big reason we never gave them allowance. They just earned their own money that way.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, that's very cool. Teach them kind of the basics just through little things like that.
Yeah.
I have just a little bit of background on me. I have 3 kids, and they're kind of one of them is 12, so he's kind of hitting that age. Others are 3 and 1, so they're a little bit early. But yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to talk to someone like you, and I'm always looking for people like you. You've kind of gone through it, and you've taught your kids a lot of those basics, just about how to buy low, sell high, how to make their own money, be self-sufficient, and I think that we're all looking to raise successful, happy, self-sufficient humans. Turn them into these small blobs into real humans who are self-sufficient and providing for society and able to do what they want. But yeah, that's where I am, and I've been trying to teach my 12-year-old for probably a couple of years now, through different ways. I'm involved with real estate, so I try to teach him some of the different things that I do. But I struggle with it a lot. I struggle with him. Sometimes he doesn't necessarily show an interest for it. He'd rather be playing on his phone or Game Boy or whatever he has these days. did you come across any of the problems like that where they didn't really care about the business side, or were they just immersed in it so much that they kind of just had to pick it up?
Well, when they were younger, they just kind of were there because they were with us. And so
Right.
some of it was just absorbed, but a big thing we always did was when one of our kids asked us a question, we gave them a real answer, not, oh, because that's how it works, or, make something up, when
Sure.
you think, oh, kids are too young to understand. So, when they were like 5 and 6 and someone pays us rent and they're like, well, how come those people are giving you money? And then we explain what rent is and they're like, oh, wow, well, I want to have a house so people give me money. And then we have to explain, well, once you get that money, you still have a mortgage. And so explaining those things, how they work. And, I remember my son asking why people would give us a piece of paper instead of money, and so then
Okay.
we have to
Yep.
explain how checks work and, and how they have an account and those kind of things. And so I think that went a long way with the kids in understanding things, because when I was growing up, you don't need to know that, or that's adult things, or, money, my parents never talked about money at all in front of us. We didn't know how much they made or how much our house cost, none of that. So I think it's important that they do know those things and they understand, how it works. They, my son, of course, he a lot of times he'd rather play games and stuff, but I think, to some extent, my husband Sean would always have him come with him to do handyman stuff or to do things, and so it was time they got to spend together. But my son was also learning things, and so now he's 21, and I think of him as the kid who's always in the basement playing games or goofing off and stuff. And when he goof off in school, we'd have to drag him out of bed, threaten him to do his homework, but then he does what he'd do well. But I remember he was in, I think, a junior in high school, and he says, "Hey, Mom, you want to come see the car I got?" And I was like, "Okay." And I come out and it's like, "Is that an engine in the trunk?" And he's like, "Yeah." Okay, so I figured this was just going to be a junker sitting in our, in our yard forever. I didn't think he had the patience or anything to do. I was like, he's going to get frustrated and say, "Oh, this is stupid," and walk off, because that's kind of the attitude he has. He put the thing together and it ran. I was surprised, and he sold it. He bought it for like 500 and sold it for like $2,000.
Wow,
So
that's awesome.
I was shocked. And so along those lines, a lot of times something happens and he can fix it. And I'm like, how do you know how to do that? I don't, his friend's mom had her I can't remember exactly, but I know a four-wheeler and I think a vacuum and different things that people he knows or his friends' parents and stuff, and he fixes it for him. And I'm just like, where did he learn that? My husband doesn't fix cars or four-wheelers, and but he has learned that process of figuring things out, of step by step and stuff. So yeah, I see that, and then I see other young men who didn't work with their fathers and get taught that stuff, and they don't know how to change a tire, they don't know how to change out a light fixture or replace a toilet. Some of these things that we probably take for granted because our dads did them.
Sure.
So I think in your case, just having your son along with you to do things, he can learn, and have that time with you.
Yeah, it's very cool. I do try to keep him involved. Even if he is sometimes not paying attention as much.
Yeah.
But the screen time it's a very frustrating battle to fight with.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think the biggest mistake in our life was getting an Xbox. I regretted that for years. Yeah. But one thing we found with my son, and is that if we told him ahead of time that this Saturday or this certain time we're going to do this at 9:30 and we'll be done by noon. And if he knew that, then he would be okay. But if it's like, hey, we got to go do this, or if you just sprung it on him, he'd be really upset, resentful, and stuff. So if you kind of find how it works for them, sometimes that helps to just know there's a beginning and end, and they have some notice.
Yeah, that's smart. So, kind of set the expectations, which is kind of what you should do with everyone. I know my wife wishes I would set expectations better sometimes. If I want to go out golfing or something, tell her the correct amount of time that I'll be gone.
Yeah. Just say 12 hours and come home early and she'll be happy.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you told me that your son did a lot of the handyman work with your husband if he had to make calls or runs or just fix things up. What are some of the other ways that you got your kids involved? Maybe how'd you get your daughter involved with the business?
Well, she wasn't. My son always has wanted to make money and is interested in doing this and that. And my daughter, she's an artist, so her motivation would be to be able to buy art supplies.
Okay. Yeah.
So she would do things for money for things like that. But when they had just started in high school, or they were in high school, it's kind of funny. They went to youth group camp, and they were gone Monday through Thursday. And it's a long story, but for some reason I was looking at stainless steel on Craigslist for my sister, and I came across this kettle corn business, and it was like $4,500, and it had everything: the kettle, the tent, and all, And my son loves kettle corn. When we go to the fair or something, you'd have to get 2 bags because he wouldn't share his. And he would just beg for it. We always had to get it. And so I started looking into this. And so by Wednesday, I told my husband about it. He's like, oh, well, And so we picked the kids up and we tell them about it and ask if they want to do it. And they're, yeah. So my son and my husband drove, across Washington and picked it up. And so they started their own kettle corn business. I mean, with us helping, of course. But we had them, do the setup. We'd help them, but they do the setup. They do the sales. They pop it. They bag it. Involve them in any decisions. And my daughter helped with design of like the labels and the website and stuff. And so they did that through high school, and they were actually been able to hire a couple of friends. And
wow. That's awesome. That's
cool. My daughter, one of her friends, her parents bought her a car, but she couldn't drive it until she paid for it. I think they got it from a cousin or something. And she thought, oh, I'll never get that car. It'll take me years. She had it paid off in 2 months.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't a very expensive car, but hey, when you're a kid and you don't really have a job, yeah, so that was a neat experience for them. And my son kind of really took ownership of the kettle corn, and we actually added lemonade, fresh squeezed lemonade, and that was my daughter's thing. So
cool.
They made really good money in the summer, and then a few events during the year, and but it kind of got set aside a bit while they were at school.
Right.
So now it's my son's business. Now he's old enough to own it, and
oh, cool. He's still doing it.
Yeah. Now he works Tuesday through Saturday, so he can't do a lot of events, but like he'll do the Harvest Fest for our church this next Friday, and a few other events. He did another a weekend event, but he does pop every week, and we sell it at our store. We have like I said, that secondhand vendor mall.
Yeah.
We still have it. It actually doubled in size in 2009, so it's about a 16,000 square foot vendor mall, and he pops about every week, sometimes every other week, and he sells about $500 or $600 worth of kettle corn a month in there.
Hey, that's awesome. That's a good little side hustle there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, it's worked out nice and a little extra money for him, and and he sells extra tools or things he comes across at the store. So yeah, they do that. My daughter sells keychains. She designs keychains and has them made, little acrylic ones of anime characters and stuff, and she sells those in the store.
Awesome. Yeah.
So they're always doing, doing stuff like that. So I think the biggest thing I wanted my kids to learn, as a general thing, is to be able to always be able to take care of themselves, to never be dependent on someone else for their income, that they would never go hungry because they could always figure a way to make money and to take care of themselves. And I think that they're at that point,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I feel like that is, that's definitely like what I'm trying to stress and teach to my kids. And I feel like that's a lot of parents' goals, is to have that self-sufficiency where, they don't have to depend on someone else for their livelihood and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and if you lose your job, it's not like the end of the world until somebody else gives you a job. You can go out and make your own,
Right.
Make your own way and think of, come up with ideas. Who needs something? What need can I fill?
Yeah.
And now at 21, my son's wanting to, he's wanting to get like a duplex or a fourplex and start, house hacking.
House hacking it?
Yeah. And at 21, he does that, and he rolls them over every 2 years. He could have 5 houses by the time he's 30.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I got a buddy of mine who I work in the fire department, but he was like 20, 21 when he got on, and I was telling him, I was like, hey, you need to start like house hacking, and then now he's up to like 3 houses.
Yeah.
So
it's like, if I knew this stuff when I was their age, I could be ruling the world by now. It's like,
if I knew this stuff before I had kids and a wife and all this other responsibility.
Yeah.
But
and the time, even if you're not that bright and have all this stuff going on, just buying a house and in a couple of years, renting it out and buying another one. It's not rocket science. It just takes time. It's like compounding interest, that whole appreciation and stuff. It's amazing. So that's a big thing I wish I had more of, is more time.
Yeah, for sure. Did you teach your kids about, I guess, the like compounding appreciation, like the investing side of it, I guess, buying assets, and selling liabilities and that kind of thing?
Yeah. It's funny that, my son, being 21 and having friends, that they get a job and they go out and buy a new truck, and they've got these $800 a month payments, and he drives a $700 truck. he literally, he has a 1986 Ford Ranger, and that's what he drives.
Wow, that's awesome.
It cost him $700,
yeah.
And and he can fix it himself. And it came with a set of snow tires that probably cost more than the vehicle. But so it boggles his mind that somebody would do that. He's like, why would you pay so much for something that's not going to be worth more later?
Yeah.
So
that's
and my daughter too. We she had this attitude when she was about middle school, real stores, because I thrift store shop for my store, and just I'm always, that's what I do, for my secondhand business, the thrift stores, garage sales, auctions. Right. And so she had this attitude of, well, a real store. She called it a real store, And so we went school shopping, and we went to Value Village, which is a really big chain of thrift stores, and they have a lot of clothes. And she got, for about $80, she got about 15 items of clothing, and she liked them all. And then I said, okay, now we'll go to a real store. And we went to Justice, which is really popular for the tween age. And she found this cute little skirt, a skirt shorts, and $45. And she was like, I'm not buying that. And I said, well, it's okay. You can get a couple of things here. You wanted some new things and from a real store. And
welcome to the real store.
And I want you to be able to have some things that you'd like. And she wouldn't even get a t-shirt. The t-shirt was like $20. Wow, she just got t-shirts for $1.99. And she's like,
yeah.
So, even when given the chance, they were just shocked at the thing. So we have a thing, and if we see something we like, we're just like, oh, we'll just wait 6 months. It'll show up at
Yeah.
Goodwill.
That's true. I mean, I bet that works a lot of times. Just
Oh
sooner or
yeah.
later, people get tired of it.
We went to SeaWorld in Florida, and they wanted a big Shamu stuffed animal. I'm like, that's going to take a whole seat in the plane. You're not going to want to hold that. And I was like, no. And it was like, $59 or something. And within a week of coming back, I found the same Shamu at a thrift store for $3.99.
Oh my gosh.
So they still got their Shamu.
Yeah.
And then have to carry it home.
Yeah,
but,
heck yeah. That's the way to do it right there. So looking back, do you think that one of your kids was like just more naturally entrepreneurial, or do you think it was kind of
my son definitely. He's we called him our engineer in training, because from the time he was like 3 or 4, he was into Legos. At 5 years old, he could do one of those 14-year-old plus kits in like 2 hours.
Oh wow,
and
that's awesome.
And in school he would fix like the pencil sharpener or do different things. And so we always thought he'd be an engineer, and that's kind of why we pushed him to go to the college. And,
right.
And he's not the type to sit in the classroom. He's like, that's stupid. He's more to learn something off of YouTube or read it and figure it out. Which is fine. People learn things different. But yeah, he's always kind of, I call it scheming and plotting, although those have negative connotations, but that's kind of how I am. My husband's very linear. He's an engineer. There's a certain way to do things. And I'm always like, how can we get around this? Or how can we do that? Or how get somebody else to do that? And so it's kind of fun because my son got both of us in there. So my daughter, on the other hand, she just loves to do her art, and she's kind of quiet and shy and introverted, but she's got good ideas. She's pretty smart. I remember her math teacher said she was a heartbreaker because she was going into art instead of the same STEM. But so
Do you think your daughter will have I know you said she was selling the keychains and different things. Do you think she's going to continue to grow that kind of idea of selling her own stuff, or do you think she'll have more of a traditional 9 to 5, I guess?
I think she'll probably do more of her own stuff, and if she does go into like graphic design and things like that she'll probably be more freelance.
Cool.
She got into the Etsy store. Let's see, I think for years, every year she had a pool party, and she'd have about 15 friends, and they'd have this pool party. And when she was turning 14, I asked her, hey, you want to do the pool party? And she was like, I'd really like a button machine. And so it's these machines that you put the plastic, you put the metal thing on and the plastic, and you swirl it around and you pump, and then you have these little pins. And so and that cost about a little more than her pool party would cost. It was almost $300. And so she wanted that instead of the pool party, and that's what got her into business. She started making the buttons.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I think she'll always be doing something that is kind of self-directed. She doesn't really like to do commissions, but she has done them because that's kind of how artists sometimes make money. So so she kind of be flexible. She's really gotten into pottery.
Okay. Yeah,
and
that's cool.
When you're in art, if you're not like a really great artist and getting to sell a lot of stuff, a lot of times you have to go into teaching. And she didn't think she'd want to do that, but now she's starting to think at college level she might. Because in high school you end up with the kids who have to do it because they need an elective and they think it's an easy A to do art.
Yeah, and kind of there.
Yeah, and so she never wanted to, but now she's in college, she thinks she could possibly, teach college level, but she'd want to go do something else first. So
cool. So now just I guess to flip it around, were your parents entrepreneurs at all?
No.
No. Where do you think you got your entrepreneur gene from? Is it just seeing things growing up, or?
Well, my maternal grandfather was an inventor, and
Okay.
so it probably came down that way. And then my paternal grandfather was a farmer, so kind of
Yeah.
jack of all trades. You have to be able to do everything. And I guess my dad, he drank when I was younger. He's been sober for 42 years now, but
Yeah.
he kind of he was good at pretty much anything he did, but he didn't keep job. So he'd be a machinist for a while, and then he was a logger, and then he was driving truck, and then he was, we're in Idaho, a potato plant
Yeah.
manager, and so he just always doing different things. So I did see that, the opportunity to just kind of do other things. My mom, she mostly, did waitressing, housekeeping, hotel maid and stuff. So yeah, we didn't really, and they never talked about money, so we didn't really get that from them. But
Gotcha.
it's funny. There's three of us kids, and each one of us is totally different in how we work, how we think, how we treat money, how we raised our kids. I mean, it's like, did we really come from the same household? So
It's wild how that works sometimes.
yeah.
Well, I mean, that's fascinating hearing about kind of like where you came from, and then how your kids have grown into the paths that they're taking, and learned from you and your husband, just working with you and kind of absorbing osmosis, I guess, a lot of it. But then you supporting them by getting them the different business opportunities of the kettle corn or the button maker, and the that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, do you have, and you may not, do you have any resources such as like a book, a podcast, a YouTube channel, or anything that kids could watch or read, just to learn more about being an entrepreneur, or learn more about like, here's a business you can start, that kind of thing?
There wasn't a lot around when my kids were growing up, and I wasn't. They got into YouTube before I did, but I know that there's a couple things going on right now to aim toward like teens and tweens,
Yeah.
teaching them entrepreneurship. I know Alex Love Lee with Legends. He's doing. I think he's starting a new challenge to teach teens about multifamily investing.
Oh, cool.
And there's also KJ and what's her husband? I want to say Josh, but I'm pretty sure it's not. KJ Mudd. She's in sub-2, and she and her husband are doing. They have the $1 million upside, and that alludes to their investors, and that alludes to they look for properties where they can get $1 million upside from doing improvements and stuff on them. They're just starting a kids program to really teach kids about entrepreneurship. So I would look for KJ Mudd and the $1 million upside, and also Alex Lovely. It's like Alex, and middle name Love and last name Lee, but I think actually Love is his wife's last name.
Oh,
But
okay, gotcha.
he's on Instagram and Facebook and all over, and he does like I know he's for a long time, at least a year that I know of, had on, I think it's Thursdays at for a half an hour before he does a Zoom for adults. He has a younger people's Zoom, and he actually has like a 16-year-old who has done all his social media, and has got him from like I don't know, 10,000 followers to 150,000 followers.
Oh, wow.
This kid's like a genius. And he just sits there. He's got his gamer stuff on, and he's like, "Oh, I'll fix this." He's tech support. It's amazing, and it's really cool to see kids doing that, and how Alex really supports that. He hired another kid who was building up his YouTube to do some of his YouTube stuff, and this kid I think he just turned 16 this last year, and he's been building his YouTube following doing these videos. And so he's really supporting kids doing that. So
yeah, I'll have to. They're both in sub 2, Alex Lovely and KJ Mudd.
KJ is, but Alex is not. And if you have any trouble, I'll send you links to their information. But
okay.
yeah, there's a lot of people are wanting to do that. That they have kids and they want them to be in a better spot when they become adults than we are. Than we were.
That's
so
what it's all about.
Yeah, especially in the changing economy. I mean, people aren't working 40 years at a job anymore. They're not even working 10 years at a job anymore. I mean, for a lot of the parts. So
yeah, and okay, I guess the last closing question I have for you is, if you had like one piece of advice that you could give to parents to help their kids, I guess to at least show them the opportunity of being an entrepreneur. I know not everyone wants to be one, but to encourage them to look at it, what's that advice? What would that be?
Well, I guess it's kind of a three-part. It's like always answer their questions honestly and thoroughly. Don't treat them like a kid. I mean, of course, age appropriately, but still just be honest and let them, so they know things, and that makes them feel more responsible, and also encourage them. I mean, they might be interested in something that seems really stupid to you, but hey, Beanie Babies made a fortune at one point,
Right.
And even if it doesn't, if they're passionate about it and find a way to, make it a business out of it, it doesn't have to work out. It's still the experience.
Yeah.
And so supporting them and not poo-pooing their ideas. So I guess those would be the big ones, is, treating them like adults and telling them, explaining thoroughly and supporting them.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. Yeah, that's definitely something that I strive to do, and I could be a lot better at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. As a kid, I was told, "Oh, that's not a good idea," or "You can't do that," or "They're a dime a dozen," and stuff. And so I wasn't encouraged. So
yeah. Is there a certain place you'd like any listeners to go to follow you? Social media, website, anything like that?
Well, I'm an introvert, so I often don't like to be followed. Actually, I have a YouTube channel. It's called The Introvert Entrepreneur. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and they're all Jen Bonner. Most of them are JENN Bonner at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, but LinkedIn is one N, Jen Bonner.
Gotcha.
So
cool.
I'm all over the place.
All right. Well, there you have it. If you want to follow Jen Bonner, then go to @Jen Bonner, almost any social media you can find. Thank you so much for talking with me.